Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar Exploring Worldcat. My name is Ashley Hinshaw, and I am the NYARC Crest Fellow for Public Services here at the Frick Art Reference Library. I'm presenting today's session along with Ralph Baylor, who will be moderating today's webinar. Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Ashley. Hello, everybody. My name is Ralph Baylor. Like Ashley mentioned, I'm the head of Interlibrary Loan here at the Frick Art Reference Library.
So just to start, we'll look at our schedule for today. The presentation will begin with a brief introduction of our subjects, and we'll move into specific features and functions of Worldcat. Finally, I will discuss the relationship between Worldcat, the Frick Art Reference Library, and our readers. So we should have time for questions at the end, and we will close with that. The goals for today's session include learning about union catalogs, what they are and how they are compiled, some of the potential drawbacks to be aware of also. We will increase our knowledge of Worldcat and be able to use the features, functions, and various search strategies to locate accurate and quality search results. And finally, we'll go over the benefits of using Worldcat on site at the Frick Art Reference Library or at your local subscribing institution. And in saying that, I recognize it is not possible at this time due to library closures, but that will change eventually, and when it does, we hope to see you. So here we go. We'll get into union catalogs, library collections, and how these records are created. A union catalog is a combined library catalog containing the collections of multiple libraries. Union catalogs can and usually will include a huge variety of media and material types. We use union catalogs to locate materials held in other libraries, and we can then refer researchers to those locations, or when possible, libraries will lend and borrow materials through an interlibrary loan service. Worldcat is an electronic union catalog, and it is the largest. It contains the collections of over 17,000 libraries in 123 countries. These subscribing libraries collectively maintain Worldcat's database by supplying their libraries information. So the way that libraries supply this information to Worldcat's database is by providing our online catalogs. Frick users will be familiar with Fresco and our digital collections, and we provide those records to Worldcat along with all the other participating libraries. While the sheer volume of libraries who have chosen to upload their information to Worldcat is great for exposure and access, it's not great for consistency. While there are some more commonly used descriptive standards for creating these bibliographic records, this is a worldwide project, and different countries, cultures, and fields of study have their own ways of describing things. Additionally, there's many contributors can lead to duplicate records as well as large variances in the amount of information provided. This can present a challenge for researchers as you all locate and organize your materials. So being able to search the catalog effectively is not only helpful, but necessary. So there are many features of Worldcat intended to help you do just that. We're going to get into those now. So we'll start by looking at the main Worldcat landing page. So you'll see here, this is going to be just your very basic keyword search. It's presented on the front page, and they're already giving you an opportunity to get more specific in your searches here by material. So you can choose to use that. You can, if you know the title that you're using or the author, you'll generally be pretty successful with a search. But like I said, the sheer volume of materials makes that not always a sure thing. There is another option here under advanced search for a deeper, more specific dive. It's going to bring you here. This offers guided searching with the ability to use specific characteristics of the material. So you can use these fields to broaden or narrow your search. You can see here they've already pre-selected keyword, title, and author. So you could use all three of those at the same time or one at a time. This drop-down menu gives additional options. So you have here an accession number that's usually specific to a library, so that's not always helpful. You can also search by author. ISBN and ISSN are very helpful if you happen to have them on hand, but we usually don't start research with that information. There's also journal sources. You can search by keyword, as we've said, and subject, as well as the title, like we mentioned. So here's another option to narrow your search. You can choose this to select only open access materials, which is going to be helpful if you're I want to make sure that you're able to access them without needing a paid subscription, or you can't get to the site. That might help narrow it to those results. Here's another way to narrow. You can select by the year that something was published, or if you're interested in a specific decade of published materials, you can do that there. Here's the audience if you're looking for juvenile or non-juvenile material. Fiction, nonfiction, biography, and theses or dissertation, as well as format, which I generally like to leave blank because I like to keep things open, and I sometimes discover new things that I wouldn't have by leaving this completely open. And languages. I generally keep mine in English because that's my strongest language, but if you are interested in something specific, you could do it there. So I'm going to start with just a basic keyword search. Let's put in the last name Fragonard. So it was just one keyword search. It's going to bring any record back that features that name. So you can see I have over 8,000 results, 8,745 to be exact. So most of them have to do with Jean-Honoré Fragonard, the French Rococo painter whose series The Progress of Love is part of the Frick collection. But let's say that that's not what I'm looking for today. Maybe I'm someone who's interested in decorative arts and I'm working on the history of perfume bottle design. And I happen to know that Fragonard is also the oldest perfumery in France, and I want to see what results I can find related to them. I don't want to search through 8,000 results to find that relevant information. So what I can do is I can apply Boolean operators. I'm going to start with the operator and that's going to narrow my search, providing me more precise results. So I'm going to put in and perfume. And I'm going to get results that feature both of those words in the record specifically. So I've narrowed it down a great deal. I only have 7 results to sort through. So definitely relevant, but not as much as I would generally like to start with for my research. So let's jump into one of my favorite tricks, which is going to be to add an asterisk to the end of a word. So the asterisk serves as the truncation or wildcard operator. It creates a search for words that match the letters preceding the asterisk with anything allowed to follow after. So I can put in a partial word. So by typing PERFUM and an asterisk, I have just opened up my search to include possibilities like perfumery and perfumer. So I've increased my search results to 12. And as I scroll down, I can see that they all seem to be relevant. They're related to perfume. I know that's the founder of the perfumery. I've now found that there is a museum of perfumery named after that business. So that's probably a really great place to get started as well. So that was a pretty good result. So let's try another scenario. Maybe I'm starting to work on a research paper for school, and I'm interested in Fragonard the artist, but I'm not interested in The Progress of Love. It's been well covered. I maybe want to try something new. So I'm going to exclude any mention of the work by using the Boolean operator not. And I want to exclude Progress of Love. And see what I come up with. So I've come up with 145 results, much more manageable than the 8,000 we saw previously. They all seem to be relevant. I've gotten some interesting e-videos that I might want to work with, some theses. There is this result as well, the allegory of love. So that's a synonymous title, and it was missed in our filter because it is a different wording. It's not progress, it's allegory. So now I'm going to say, I am very interested in the progress of love, and I want to find everything I can find related to that, including when it's described as the allegory of love. So I'm going to put in here. Or, so now I'm going to get results for both options. Now, because I am broadening the search, I anticipate getting a lot of results. So what I'm going to do is put this in quotes, which you have seen me do on some of the other examples. And what that does is create a phrase search. So it makes sure the words that I'm searching are located in exactly the order that I'm typing them. And I'm not going to get a lot of loose results that contain only love or only allegory. Okay, 655 results. Some are definitely more relevant than some of the other ones. As I mentioned, we did broaden our search. So we've now brought in some nonfiction options that aren't really what we're looking for. We could keep playing with this search field and see if we can get exactly what we're looking for, or we can use something else to sort these results, which is going to be these facets on the left. Let me see here. So this image is going to be all the formats available. As you can see, that's one of the biggest groups of facets, but it also covers things like format, author, year, language, content, audience, and topic. Let's go back to Worldcat and see what we can do to narrow this down. Okay, so as I said, I just personally like to leave format open because, maybe there's archival materials that are going to be really interesting or something I haven't thought of. I don't want to get too specific with the author, the year. I want to leave the language open. I could choose to narrow it down to nonfiction, and that would leave 599 results, still a lot to work with. But if you look here, we've seen a lot of things pulled into our search results related to medieval traditions and writings, literature, because of the use of allegory of love in our search phrase. So what I think I'm going to do is use the topic option and narrow it to art and architecture, which will leave me with 53 results you can see there. Great. So here's 53 usable and interesting results. Here's something directly from the Frick. And now we've narrowed down those results. Okay, so another really helpful feature that Worldcat has is the option to create an account and have a user profile. So I've done that already to use as an example for everybody. Let's go to the main page here. This is going to be where you sign in. And now I'm signed in. So I can choose to look at my profile here, which is the image you saw in the PowerPoint. And we'll look at some of these features. So here's a place if you find that you're working with a specific library a lot, or they happen to have a lot of materials that you use frequently, you can add that to your favorite libraries. So you can access them more quickly. I know that you will all be very eager to add the Frick Art Reference Library there as soon as you create your account. This is probably the most helpful feature that I found. It's the ability to create lists. So as I was doing my research on Fragonard, either the perfumery or the artist, I could create a list here and add resources to that as I work, which I will get into a little bit later. And as you saw me constructing those complicated search phrases, if you don't want to do that every time you come in to check on updated resources, you have the option to save those here. I believe Worldcat lets you save up to 100 searches. So that's a really quick, easy way to just jump in and see if anything new has popped up since the last time you were working. Here's a place for you to write reviews about materials that you've used in the past. Can be helpful for other researchers, definitely. You can talk about or list your interests here. This is another really helpful thing for you as a user. You can add tags to resources that you've used, which is just a way for you to add keywords to items that help you, keep track of them in your own way, in a way that you understand them. But just be aware that tags are available, publicly available to any other Worldcat users, so they'll be on the main bibliography page. Excuse me. Let's get back to some search results. So let's look at some bibliographic records, and we'll take a break with Fragonard for a minute and get into somebody else featured in the collection. So you can see Worldcat pretty much makes it possible for you to search from any page on their website. I just did a search for my user profile. So I just did a quick search for that person. He is a meddler and coin maker who has work at the Frick. And you can see I didn't get a ton of results, 62. So I'm probably good to start working with what I have found right now. So this is something helpful as well. If you do research like I do, I tend to just hoard a bunch of materials and go back later and evaluate them to see if I'm going to use them or hunt them down. If you want to do that, it's very easy to just add things to your research list by checking the box next to the records in the results page. So I can come right here to new list because I am still logged in. Click save. And I'm going to name the list. And I'm going to make it public, viewable by anyone. So that'll be other Worldcat users, because at this point in my research, I am very confident that I will produce something that other people will be interested in reading. So let's jump into the specifics of the bibliographic records. So as I mentioned, because they are uploaded by contributing libraries, there is sometimes a large disparity in the information included from record to record. A really rich record will include many of these things and more. So let's look and see what we have. This one looks pretty good. It looks fairly new, so hopefully we can get a good. Okay, great. So just to go over the, geography of a bibliographic record in Worldcat, here are some user options. So since I've already created the list, if I hadn't done this from the results page, I could add it here, and it would give me the option to add it to this list, or again, create a brand new one. I can add my tags straight from this page. I can also write a review or rate it. This is helpful also. You can create citations in multiple formats and just copy paste them directly into your paper or your own bibliography, or you can export them using a program. You can print it, email it, share it. And this is an important section too. This is a permalink or a permanent link. So if you want to keep your own record and find a way to get back to this quickly, you could copy paste from this search field in my browser, but those links tend to be messy, and as things are updated or moved, they won't be good forever. This contains a very specific number that's assigned by Worldcat and OCLC that is specific to this item. So by using this link, you're going to guarantee that you can always find it when you follow it back to the record. So while we're over here, Worldcat also auto-populates some options to purchase the book. So if you are able and interested, you can go straight from here, especially as I mentioned with some of these library closures, that might be an easier option for you if you're interested in the whole item. So this is the more traditional bibliographic information that people are looking for. There's the title, and here's some authors. And you can see that they are linked. So if I were interested in more work from these writers, I could click on their names and it would provide me with a whole host of more materials. Here's publishing information. This book is part of a series. It's print, it's a conference publication. This is also very helpful. View all editions and formats. So you usually want to check this to make sure that you're working with the one best for you. Maybe you need the most updated version, or maybe you're looking for a specific edition because it contains, a different illustration that you need to use. So you can go in here and see what else is available. Because this is a serial, it's going to be the one edition, so that all looks correct. But this is going to be helpful. It also comes in the ebook format. So since so many of us are working from home and can't get to the libraries, that's definitely something worth investigating. If you need to get your hands on a copy, there may be a library that can just give you access from home. So let's go back to the item details. Okay, as I keep moving, as a user, you could rate the item here. And these are subject headings assigned to this item. I find these very helpful when I'm doing initial research. I like to jump in and see what else is related, if there's anything else worth exploring. So you can follow those to more materials. And this one happens to have a preview of the book. So it looks like it would be through Google. We could follow that and flip through some pages, get an idea of what this item actually is. And this is also a very important section, if not the most. This is going to be all the libraries near you who have this item in their collection. So as I'm scrolling through, I personally know I have a little bit of a problem. I don't have access to the Pratt libraries. I don't have access to Brooklyn Law. But as I keep moving, I see that the New York Public Library does have a copy of this book. So I could click here and follow the link to the New York Public Library website. I'm presented with all of the same information, and I can figure out how to see the book from here. So it looks like it's for in-use, library use only. So you would have to visit and see it on site, but it's great to know that there is a public option for that. Okay, so here's some more details about the book. It's been given genres. The material type is a conference publication. There's further information about the authors. It does have an ISBN number, so that's really helpful if you need to go hunt it down at other libraries or at a different bookstore. You can use that to get directly to this item. This is the item or the number that I pointed out earlier that is in that permanent link. So this is the number specific to Worldcat, assigned by OCLC and Worldcat. Here we know that it's got 11 contributions in English, 6 in French. So it is primarily in English. And a little bit more about it. It was presented at an international conference from 2002. And then here's a physical description, 376 pages with some illustrations in color. And this is one of the most helpful things for items like this, especially when they're, compilations of multiple writers and multiple chapters. They've included a table of contents. So this is really going to be helpful for us to figure out what exactly in the book we're looking for. So we're looking for one specific person, if you remember, Pieter van Abel. Let's see which chapters are discussing him. Okay, so we see here is the last name that we were searching, but it belongs to somebody different. This is their first name. So that is not what we're looking for. And here's the first name that we were searching, but it belongs to a different person with a different last name. These are both authors, the contributors to the material. So because I didn't use quotation marks in my initial search, it searched each word individually, which is why quotation marks can be so important when you're doing this type of research. But let's keep moving down. Here's the series title, some more publisher information if we were interested. If any Worldcat users had written reviews, they would appear here. Any tags that were added, they would be here. And here's the full list of subjects that this item has been assigned, so they may be worth our time to go through and explore a little bit of each one. And here's some user lists. So this person did have a use for it. This is from me adding these from the search results, if you remember a few moments ago. So that does update pretty quickly. Okay, so that's a great record. It's not a good record for us, but it does provide a lot of information. So let's go back to our results and keep exploring. Okay, so I'm going to go with this one because it's got his name right in the title. It feels safe. Okay, so this is a pretty good example of a somewhat bare bones record. We have our title, we have some authors. This is the artist himself. Some publishing information. We can see that this book was published in 1980. So that might be a reason why there's not a lot of information about it. There may be a different descriptive standard, or it just wasn't all transferred when they went to a digital catalog. There could be a lot of reasons for that. I could explore more editions and formats if there are any. You can see there's no cover, there's no preview. It's also only held in 3 library collections outside of the US, so that might be a reason also for the minimal information provided. You can see here, minimal, no table of contents, just a small section listed in the description. And I did add it to my list in the beginning, so there it is there in the user lists. So we'll go back to our search results. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Worldcat and the Frick Art Reference Library together. As I mentioned, worldcat.org is available to the public free for searching, but there is also a subscription version that is available to registered Frick users when you visit the library. It is also available remotely from home if you have a New York Public Library card. And the subscription service provides access to more content and functionality than worldcat.org does on its own. So, as I mentioned, Worldcat is integral to interlibrary loan programs, and the Frick Art Reference Library participates in interlibrary loan. We will borrow items on your behalf as long as you are a registered user. So if you have not yet registered as a Frick Library user, you can go to frick.org/fresco and follow the link on the bottom of the page. Or you can also go to frick.org/library registration. Both will work. So that's the main interlibrary loan page. I'm going to get into that in just a second. So as I mentioned, frick.org/fresco. This is just a good landing page to pretty much get to anything. You can see down here the option to register. So once you've provided us with some of this information, with all of this information, you can go ahead and submit. You're going to be immediately given a barcode to use to sign into both Fresco and set up your interlibrary loan account. So you're going to want to make note of that. And then you take that barcode and you can either go to this page, which is the main interlibrary loan page, or stick with what you know, which is what I like to do, and start at frick.org/fresco and go here to request an interlibrary loan. You see it takes you to the same place. So this gives you a brief overview of the program, and this is going to be where you can start looking for materials to request. So I'm just going to use a test account here. Okay, so this you can see here, this is our Worldcat landing page. So it essentially is going to search our subscription Worldcat database, but we don't want to start all the way over because we just spent all this time locating these really wonderful resources. So because we took the time to create a profile, I can go straight here, check my list. This wasn't the right person that I was looking for, but I did find some of these chapters very interesting, so maybe I want to read one on my own. I know that I'm still working in Worldcat, so I'm going to try to search by this OCLC number. I'm going to copy it and paste it right here, just as a keyword search. It should still bring it up. Okay, so because I didn't do any specific searching or try to put that exactly where I needed it, I did get some things that I wasn't looking for, but the second result is what I'm looking for. So from there, you will click on this item. If I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right edition, if that was important for this specific one, I could do that here. These are all the libraries. But really, we just need to click here, request an item through interlibrary loan. So here's the request form. I'm going to put in my first name, my last name, my email address, and my library barcode. Now, ordinarily, we can request physical items for you, but because of the library closures, not just us, but other participating libraries, we are only working with articles and copies. So I'm going to select that, and I need to tell Ralph, our interlibrary loan department head, what exactly I'm looking for. Oops. Go back to my item here. And let's say I was interested in this chapter. It looks interesting. I want to work on my French. I'm going to ask Ralph to get it for me. So I just put it here. I paste the information that I have that I think is going to be helpful for him to locate it. And then I can come down here and click submit, and then you're done. So from there, Ralph is going to start looking for your materials, and they process every request that we receive and attempt to try to fill it. They'll do their best. And generally, you'll see around a 1-week turnaround time for your items to be sent either to your inbox or if the copies to be sent. And that is requesting an interlibrary loan. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation portion, and we have time now for questions, which Ralph has been collecting throughout the presentation, but please feel free to continue to submit them. And as a reminder, to ask a question, do so by typing it in the questions panel and hit enter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. That was very informative. So we do have some questions coming in. One question is, will today's presentation be shared in some way? Yeah.
Yes, we will be sharing the slides and the links. So that would be helpful for instruction, but more or less, you should just need access to worldcat.org, but we will provide access to the slide deck, yes.
Yeah, so there'll be a PDF being sent out in a couple of days along with the survey. So fill that out. That really helps us with our programming in the future as well. There is another question. This one is saying that they are unfamiliar with the term operator when referring to the Boolean operations that you were using. Could you explain a little bit more what you mean when you're saying operator?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just, that's what they're officially called, but really all that means is it's a word that we use frequently. Oops, sorry, just 1 second. I'll go back to the web page here. Okay, so it's just a word that's doing an operation rather than functioning as the word that it is. I didn't mention this, but in Worldcat, you do have to put it in all caps, all capital letters, for it to be read as an operator and perform the operation that you're asking it to do, rather than just function as a word in regular language.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and as I recall, there are more or less 3 operators. That's the and the not that you mentioned, but there's also or, O-R, yes. So that allows you to expand your search for more broader terms as well.
Absolutely. There are a lot of little tricks for that that all sort of fall under that Boolean operators umbrella. I tried to cover some today, but we don't want to teach you all of them because then you won't need us.
We have another question here. It says, why does Worldcat have multiple records for the same thing?
Yeah, that is more to do with the fact that the project itself is a collaboration. So as libraries upload their information, there's not always a clear check for duplicates, or if there is a clear check for duplicates, if somebody had just put in, an additional publisher or an additional author or wrote the title a little bit differently, it would register as a separate item and then create an extra record.
Right, yeah, because I know libraries have different standards for classifying and describing, cataloging their records. So oftentimes you'll find that, especially with European libraries or international libraries, they have different standards than US libraries for cataloging materials. So that gets uploaded into Worldcat as a separate record. So if you find an item, for example, that is only listed in, let's say, certain European libraries, but should probably be in a US library, you might want to check that feature that you showed, the additional or similar items, because oftentimes that's where you'll find the other records.
Right. And these links here, user list and similar items, they just drop you down to the bottom of the page. But yeah, so if there were similar items, they would be here.
So we have another question. In a session of cocktails with the curator, a letter was mentioned that told Mr. Morgan not to mention an angel sculpture to Bella da Costa Green. Would Worldcat show something like that? So that sounds to me like it's referring specifically to archival material.
I think, yeah, it could. I can't say definitively about that item, but what that would depend on is how that item was described in our library's catalog. So that specific letter may not be described, rather the folder that it's in and what is contained, or the subject or the overall collection may be described. So I'm not sure how granular our descriptions are of our items, but that type of thing is found in Worldcat. It wouldn't be unusual.
Yeah, there are archival records, I know, in Worldcat. Oftentimes, so for primary source documents like that, your best bet is often to go to the finding aids hosted by a particular institution. So in our case, frick.org, if you go under research, go ahead, if you want to show the attendees, Ashley. Go to the research tab, and under archives, there's an option to search our finding aids.
Research.
And
archives here on the left. Scroll down.
Search finding aids. So this is where you might find that kind of information, since it sounds like it's particular to the Frick Collections holdings. Okay. So we have a question that says, can I renew my Frick card remotely? What I would suggest, if you already have a Frick library card with a barcode, email us at library@frick.org and we can renew that remotely for you. Otherwise, you can register for a new library card, in which case you will receive that email with a temporary barcode like Ashley had mentioned earlier. Can one sign up for interlibrary loans without a library card? That was another question that was asked. Register for that library card using the registration link, and then you will receive a temporary barcode that you can use to request interlibrary loans. Oh, I do apologize, Ashley, if I'm answering these questions,
that's okay.
But that's kind of my forte, interlibrary lending. Yes. So. Does a person need to be a member of the Frick to apply for a library card?
No. We are a public library. So all you need to do is register with us at the library. It's free of charge, and you'll have access to our resources.
Right. Well, specifically, we're a private library that's open to the public. Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's okay. We're not associated with NYPL or public libraries like that. But yeah, we're open to anyone. I believe 16 and up is our current age limit. Is it mostly American libraries sharing their databases to Worldcat?
I can't answer that completely, but I would say yes. It started as an American company. I would say that it's very heavy on Western resources, but as far as the actual balance, I'm not sure.
I work with people from OCLC, which they're the people who manage and maintain Worldcat quite often for interlibrary lending work. And while the vast majority of records are from American libraries, they do take records from all over the world.
Yes.
And so you can find a lot of material there. It is not all inclusive. So I wouldn't say this is the end of your search if you begin searching here, but this is definitely one of the best places to search for those research materials that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I didn't get into this, just, there's only so many hours in the day. But if you're looking for specific libraries, you can search that way too. It would be difficult for me to kind of think of a resource to try to demonstrate that, but you can search by location for specific libraries. That is an option. So from the WorldCat main page, it's just right next to the advanced search to find a library, and you could do that.
Great, thanks. I do have someone who's asking about how to enter a barcode from the library card. You just enter the numbers shown. There's no way to, unless you have like a barcode scanner like we usually do in our reading room, just enter the whole full 16-digit barcode on the back of your library card.
A lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers, but in time, I'm sure we will remember them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. So I think that is the end of the questions. Again, we will be sharing a PDF with everyone in a couple of days along with a survey. So please fill that out. And of course, as Ashley has here, if you have further questions, things that you want us to follow up on, you can always reach Ashley or any of us here at the Frick at library@frick.org.
Thank you so much for joining us today.